Guten Abend, good evening, Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Dr. Mark Donfred, Director General of ICD, Dr. Mr. Ali Raza Syed, Chairman, Kashmir Council, EU, Brussels, Dr. Manzoor Nosheri, a prominent scholar, Dr. Mohammad Siddiq Kiani, President, Free Kashmir Organization, Berlin. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I always feel a great pleasure to be at this esteemed institute and especially to meet its dynamic head, Dr. Mark Donfred, for promoting the noble objectives of greater international and cultural understanding and tolerance. The theme of this symposium, as you see, is on Kashmir. I have made it my speech on Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir dispute and the United Nations. Since we are celebrating this year 70th anniversary of the founding of United Nations, it is very much appropriate we ask and we examine the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, which has been there in the agenda of the United Nations for 70 years. The UN was established on 24th October 1945 with the objective to, quote, save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. It had 51 states as its founding members. Its current membership is approaching 200. The UN membership requires its members to observe the basic principles of the Charter, but they remain sovereign entities. The protection of the world peace and security is the core function of UN. The UN has succeeded in many instances to diffuse international, regional and local crises, while in case of actual cases of conflict, it has worked expeditiously to contain the crisis and restore normalcy. The UN succeeded in diffusing the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, Middle East War in 1973, Iran-Iraq War, withdrawal of Soviet troops from Afghanistan, withdrawal of Vietnam's troops from Cambodia, restoration of sovereignty of Kuwait, civil wars in Africa, independence for Eritrea, East Timor, South Sudan, etc., etc. But that is all. The list of failures of United Nations is even longer. On the top of UN failure has been its inability to get the many resolutions of the UN on the longest outstanding Jammu and Kashmir dispute implemented. The UN resolutions on Jammu and Kashmir are solemn undertakings by the international community, India and Pakistan, to enable the Kashmiris through a plebiscite to determine whether they wanted to join India or Pakistan. Neither UN nor India nor Pakistan can get away from this implementation of the resolutions for exercise of self-determination by the Kashmiris. The Jammu and Kashmir issue remains a challenge to global conscience and proponents of international understanding and human rights. The Kashmir Valley is the world's most militarized region, with one Indian soldier in a small area of the Vale of Kashmir for 4 Kashmiris. The elections held there have been farce and a serious joke with the population. Their legal position is zero. The Indian occupation authorities have carried out unprecedented violations of human rights, as you saw in the CD that was shown. With nearly 100,000 deaths thousands of youth missing, thousands of women raped, and more than 1 million uprooted from what is currently the world's longest history of operation and in the world's largest military concentration camp. The Kashmiris are justified in asking the UN and the international community as to why Eritrea, East Timor, South Sudan, and others can exercise self-determination, but not the Kashmiris. Why this exercise of blatant double standards? Without the resolution of Jammu and Kashmir issue, in accordance with UN resolution, as you heard, and I would reiterate, there will be no peace and security in South Asia. Pakistan will always stand by the Kashmiris for as long as it takes, because we believe truth and justice always prevails. We have the will and the capacity to resist Indian domination, and resist we will. India cannot succeed against the flow of history and time. There is no way, and I want to repeat it from my own experience of last 37 years in diplomatic service, having visited 75 countries in the world, there is no way that India can hold on to Kashmir by force of its military power. Its recent efforts to change the demography of the region are against the UN resolutions and Shimla Agreement and international law, because the Kashmir resolution under United Nations are undertakings by the international community, not only India and Pakistan. So India is acting against the international community and international law. In any case, no wall succeeds. You have seen Berlin Wall falling. There will be no wall that will be successful in Kashmir to oppress, to dampen the freedom struggle there. It's not possible. Pakistan condemns such measures that alter the ground situation. Jammu and Kashmir is an internationally recognized disputed territory. India cannot adopt unilateral steps which affect the ground realities. India should refrain from aggravating the situation and issuing belligerent statements. There is no conflict for space in South Asian region. Being India and Pakistan being fully equipped nuclear powers and can destroy each other many times, not one time. So those who feel that by becoming the largest importer of weapons and by having the support of the global media, they can succeed in dampening the spirit of the Kashmiris, they are on the wrong side of history. The violation of human rights in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir are a direct challenge to the conscience of the freedom, justice, and morality-loving people in the EU and the world, and particularly in Germany. The Kashmir issue is not a border issue nor a territorial issue. Certainly, it has nothing to do with terrorism. The credibility of everything the UN stands for is at stake due to its failure to resolve what is one of the oldest issues and the promises of the United Nations still on the agenda of the United Nations. History teaches us that the greatest force in the world is morality. The Indians cannot run away from the commitments made by their founding fathers to the Kashmiris and to the UN and to the international community that they will hold a plebiscite. Deception and falsehood and propaganda can never win. Justice can never be denied indefinitely. Kashmiris will never bow down. Indians have to read history a little bit more closer to understanding what I am saying. They have always proved to be on the wrong side of history. And when I mention that, when I say in coming paragraph, you will understand it. Kashmiris will never bow down. Kashmiris will eventually win. This is the verdict of history. If UN can facilitate the resolution of Jammu and Kashmir dispute, it will only be restoring its credibility in its own effectiveness. The resolution of Jammu and Kashmir dispute is, I believe, is in India's own interest. India should learn lessons from the fate of the former Soviet Union and Yugoslavia, both of which were its very strong buddies in the Cold War era. The reading of history proved to be wrong. Pakistan knew that India was on the wrong side of history. And we again say, you are on the wrong side of history. Again, that's for your own decision if you want to be always on the wrong side. We believe aircraft carriers and ICBMs cannot build nations and great civilizations and societies. Societies are built with moral strengths, with moral power, with values. And you saw the Indian values on the screen. The UN should convince India that it is on the wrong side of history. The UN itself needs to acknowledge that it has been used and misused by a powerful few group of nations. The international community faces a situation of gloom and doom as the UN is marking its 70 years of existence. It appears the UN has become too old to handle the global problems. The UN needs to reassert its relevance for continued existence. I wanted to say a lot on UN's own, but since the symposium is specifically addressed to the Kashmir, I have kept my comments on UN to the minimum. Of course, the UN needs to reassert its relevance for continued existence. The resolution of Jammu and Kashmir dispute will prove to be a test case. With these words, I will be, of course, welcome, and you will be welcome to ask me questions. I have kept my speech deliberately very brief. Thank you.